What is skeletal system? In Greek, skeletos mean dried body, or you can say it mummy. You all are familiar with the word mummy. So, the skeleton is the body part that forms the supporting structure of an organism. And there are two types of different skeleton types. These are exoskeleton, which is a stable outer shell of an organism like hair, nails, these, and the endoskeleton, which forms a support structure inside the body, and these are bones. So, let's proceed the chapter. Now, division of a skeletal system. Actually, skeletal system of man is divided into two types. First one is axial skeletal system, which consists of 80 bones. Another one is appendicular skeleton system, which consists of 126 bones. First of all, axial skeleton. Actually, it is the central axis of the human body. Means axial skeleton consists of the 80 bones along the central axis of the human body. It is composed of 6 parts. It is the central core of the body and where the appendicular skeleton attaches. So from axial skeleton, appendicular skeleton attaches. So the word axial refers to the fact that the bones are located close to or along the central axis of the body. And the appendicular skeleton is composed of 126 bones in the human body. So here the word appendicular is the adjective of the noun appendage, which itself means a part that is joined to something larger. And functionally, appendicular skeleton is involved in locomotion of the axial skeleton or in the manipulation of objects in the environment. Now, division of axial skeleton. So, axial skeleton consists of 6 parts, and these are skull, which contains 22 bones, hyoid, which contain only 1 bone, ear ossicles, which contain 6 bones, vertebral column, which contains 26 bones, ribs contains 24 bones. 12 plus 12 means ribs are in pair, so 12 in one side and 12 in other side. And sternum contains only 1 bone. So if we calculate all these bones, the calculation is 80 bones. So axial skeleton consists of 80 bones, and these are 6 parts of axial skeleton, or you can say it's a composition of axial skeleton. Next comes, here are the pictures of axial skeleton. This is skull, this is spinal cord, this is ribs, this is sternum, and these are the ribs. This is ribs. These are the ribs, this is sternum. Now, this is collarbone, this is ear ossicles. So these are the picture of axial bones. Next comes division of appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton consists of 2 parts, limbs, which consists 120 bones, and girdles, which consists of 6 bones. So the total calculation is 126 bones. So appendicular skeleton consists of 126 bones. Now here are the pictures of appendicular skeleton. This is pectoral girdle or pelvis. This is femur. This is pelvic girdle or pelvis. These are the pictures of appendicular skeleton. Next comes division of skull. What is skull? Skull is the bony structure of brain or bony part of brain or head. Skull is the bony part of head. Now the division of skull. It consists of 8 cranium bones and 14 face bones. Now division of cranium. What is cranium? Human brain is enclosed in the cranium. So enclosed in the cranium, the human brain has the same general structure as that of other mammals, but it is over 3 times larger than the brain of typical mammal with an equivalent body size. Now, cranium consists of 1 occipital bone, 1 frontal bone, 1 ethmoid bone, 1 sphenoid bone, and 2 temporal bone and 2 parietal bones. These are the bones of cranium. And cranium is the part of skull. Now division of face bones. It is divided into following types of bones. These are vomer bone, which is 1 in number, mandible, which is 1, zygomatic, which is 2, maxilla, which is 2, nasal bone is 2 in number, inferior nasal concave also 2 in number, lacrimal bone is 2 in number, and palatine bone is also 2 in number. So these are the division of facial bone. Now division of vertebra or spinal cord. It is also called backbone. Backbone is the main structure of human skeleton. Without vertebra, without spinal cord, or without backbone, these are a synonym of vertebra. We can't think about the skeleton. So vertebra are of following types: cervical vertebra 7 in number, thoracic 12 in number, lumbar vertebra 5 in number, sacral 5 in number when it is in fetus form, but in adult it is 1 in number. Coccygeal vertebra is 4 in fetus and 1 in adult. So these are the division of vertebra. Now division of ribs. These are ribs. Ribs is divided into 3 parts. True ribs are 7 in numbers, false ribs are 3 in numbers, and floating ribs are 2 in pairs. Next comes classification of bones. We can also classify bone according to their length, like long bones, short bones, like this. So first of all, long bones. In long bones, first come humerus. You know, humerus is a long bone in the arm or forelimb that runs from the shoulder to the elbow. This runs from shoulder to the elbow. Anatomically, it connects the scapula. And the lower arm and consists of 3 sections, and these 3 sections are upper extremity, which consists of rounded head, tubercle, intertubercle sulcus, surgical neck, these, and middle extremity consists of deltoid tuberosity, and lower extremity consists of medial epicondyle, trochlea, coronoid fossa, capitulum, lateral epicondyal, and radial fossa. Next comes radius and ulna. This is radius and the parallel is ulna. See, radius is one of the 2 large bones of the forearm, the other being the ulna. It extends from the lateral side of the elbow to the thumb side of the wrist and runs parallel to the ulna, which exceeds it in length and size. And ulna is also one of the 2 long bones in the forearm, the other being the radius. It runs parallel to radius, which is shorter. Radius is shorter than ulna. So ulna runs parallel to radius, which is shorter and smaller. Ulna is located at the side of forearm closest to the body. Next comes femur. This is femur, bones of legs. Femur, or you can also say thigh bone. It's the most proximal or closest to the center of the body. So it is the most proximal bone of the leg in vertebrates, and it is capable of walking or jumping. Femur is the largest and longest bone in the body. You can imagine that the average adult male femur is 48 cm in length and 2.84 cm in diameter. And femur forms part of the hip joint and part of the knee joint. This is the knee joint. Next comes tibia and fibula. This is tibia and fibula. See, tibia is the larger and stronger of 2 bones. This is tibia is the larger and stronger of 2 bones in the leg below the knee in vertebrates, and the other is the fibula, and this connects the knee with the ankle bones. Tibia fibula connects the knee with the ankle bones. Next comes short bones. In short bones there comes tarsals and carpals. Tarsals are any of several short angular bones that in humans make up the ankle. Tarsals make up the ankle bones. There are 7 tarsals bone in human ankle. The talus articulates above with the bones of the lower leg to form the ankle joint. The other 6 tarsals tightly bound together by ligaments below the talus and functions as a strong weight-bearing platform. Next is carpals. Carpals are the bones of sole. So these are the carpals. Next comes flat bones. In flat bones, there comes skull bones and ribs and sternum. Now irregular bones. Irregular bones are not straight bones. In it there comes spinal cord and ear ossicles. Next come sesamoid bones. Metatarsals and phalanges compose sesamoid bones. These are the bones of foot. These are metatarsal bones and these are phalanges. These are called sesamoid bones. Now, here comes the characteristics of bones. First one is bones are classified according to their shape and size. Each bone is classified according to their shape, whether it is slender or flat bones, long bones, short bones. These bones depend on their size. The shape comes in flat bones, sesamoid bones. These are. Next, ends of long bones are covered with hyaline cartilage. Actually, hyaline cartilage is a gel-like substance which provides protective cushioning to the bones. That's why ends of long bones covered with hyaline cartilage. Next, function of long bones in mammals is to provide support and to produce RBCs and WBCs. See, the spongy bones of femur, humerus and sternum contains red bone marrow which produces RBCs, red blood cells, WBCs and platelets. They also contain yellow bone marrow at the center of these bones which is used to store fat. Next, epiphyseal plates at the extremities of long bones help in the elongation of bone. See, in long bone, growth occurs at the shaft or body of the epiphyseal plate. What is epiphyseal plate? Epiphyseal plate is the bone end. So thus increasing the length of shaft. So long bone growth stops when the hyaline cartilage stops reproducing itself and fully convert to bone. That's why epiphyseal plates at the extremities of long bones help in the elongation of bone. Next, bone formed by the ossification of a tendon is called sesamoid bone. What is ossification? You can also say it osteogenesis. So ossification or osteogenesis are synonyms. So ossification is the process of laying down new bone material by cells called osteoblast. It is a synonym with bone tissue formation. And sesamoid bone are short bone embedded within a tendon or joint capsule, that is patella. So its purpose is to alter the angle of insertion of the muscle. So these are the characteristics of bones. Now characteristics of skull. Skull of man is dicondylic. What is dicondylic? Dicondylic means it bears two condyles and tropibasic or interorbital septum is present between two orbits. See, a pair of occipital condyles located near anterolateral to foramen magnum movably articulated with the vertebra. That's why the skull of the man is dicondylic. Mandible or jawbone is the only movable bone of the skull. Forehead of skull is formed by a frontal bone. The posterior part is formed by occipital bone. And foramen magnum is present with occipital bone for exit of spinal cord. Nasal and vomer are the bones of olfactory capsules. Zygomatic bone is present which forms the prominences of the cheek. Next, ear ossicles also come in skull bones are 3 in number. These are malleus shape or hammer shape, incus or anvil shaped bones, stapes or stirrup shaped bones. Malleus is modification of articular bone, incus is modification of quadrate bone and stapes is the modification of higher mandibular bone. Cribriform plate is present in ethmoidal part of the skull. You can better understand from this picture. This is parietal part of the skull, this is frontal part, this is sphenoid, This is nasal, these are lacrimal of eyes, ethmoid bones, zygomatic bones of cheek, maxilla, mandible bone, zygomatic arc, styloid bones, temporal bones and occipital bone. So this is the structure of skull. Now here are some solved examples from some competitive examinations. First one from AFMC 2001, and the question is, how many bones are present in human skull? It's a very interesting chapter. I know you will enjoy it. So, how many bones are present in human skull? 42, 22, 32 or 12? Hurry up. The right answer is 22. Seam. In human skull, 22 bones are present. Some of the bones are paired and some are unpaired. So the bones are parietals, temporals, frontal, occipital, sphenoid, ethmoid, zygomatic, etc. Among these, 8 bones are present in the cranium or brain box and 14 bones are present in the face. Next question from AIPMT 1994, and the question is, the type of joint between the human skull bone is called cartilaginous joint, hinge joint, fibrous joint or synovial joint. So what is the right answer? Hurry up, you won't get enough time to solve the question. The right answer is fibrous joint. And why it is so? See, in between the human skull bones, the type of joint is fibrous joint. This is not the case in fetal skull where the bones can move in order to accommodate the expanding brain. These joints fuse after the brain growth stops, that is usually in 1 to 2 years. Now, next question from AIPMT 1994, and the question is, which of the following component is a part of the pectoral girdle? And the options are sternum, acetabulum, glenoid cavity or ilium. The right answer is glenoid cavity, that is C. Next comes vertebrae. What is vertebrae? You can also say it S-shaped vertebra or spinal cord or backbone. These all are the synonyms of vertebrae. So, this is the lateral view of normal spinal column or spinal cord. Why we are saying it column? Because it is divided in different columns. In cervical column from 1 to 7, in thoracic column, in lumbar column L1 to L5, in sacral column and in coccyx column. So, first of all, there are normally 33 vertebrae or columns in humans, of which 7 cervical vertebrae in the neck. See, your backbone starts from the neck. So, 1 to 7 cervical vertebrae in the neck. 12 thoracic vertebrae that articulate 12 pairs of ribs. These are 12 thoracic vertebrae. 5 lumbar vertebrae is the lower back. Fusion 5 of sacral vertebra of lower back, and coccyx is a tailbone. This is tailbone, which is a fusion of 4 coccygeal vertebrae. Now the characteristics of cervical vertebra. The 7 cervical vertebrae comprise the bony axis of the neck, in which head can move. The transverse processes of the cervical vertebra are distinctive because they have transverse foramina. Also, the spinous processes of the 2nd to the 5th cervical vertebra are uniquely forked. They are forked in nature. 2 of the cervical vertebrae are of special interest. The first vertebra, called atlas, supports and balances the head. It has practically no body or spine and appears as a bony ring with 2 transverse processes. On its upper surface, the atlas has 2 kidney-shaped facets that unite with the occipital condyles of the skull, because skull is dicondylic. The second vertebra is the axis, which bears a tooth-like odontoid process on its body. As the head is turned from side to side, the atlas pivots around the odontoid process. Next, the 7th cervical vertebra is the first vertebra with an undivided spinous process, because the spinal cord is also spiny in nature. Because of this, the bone is called the vertebra prominens. You can see here the 2 bones. This is atlas vertebra, this is axis vertebra. These are posterior arc, these are superior articular facets, these are transverse foramen, this is articular fossa for dance of axis, this is anterior arc, lateral mass, transverse process and spinal foramen. This is axis vertebra which contains dance, foramen, transverse cerium, transverse process, inferior articular facet, this is body, this is lamina, this is pedicle, this is superior articular facet, this is. So these are the picture of atlas vertebra and axis vertebra. First come thoracic vertebrae. The thoracic vertebrae are larger than the cervical vertebra. It's absolutely right. If you will see the picture, you will understand the thoracic vertebrae are larger than the cervical vertebra. They increase in size as they extend downwards. The body is heart-shaped because you can see that its spinal cord is S-shaped in nature. So the thoracic vertebra is heart-shaped with facets on each side for attachments of the ribs. The neural arc is relatively small. The spinous process is long and is directed downwards. The transfer processes which help to support the ribs are thick and strong and carry articular facets for the ribs. Thoracic 2 to 8 are typical and 1, 9, 10, 11, 12 are atypical. You can see here the picture of different thoracic column or thoracic vertebra. This is the superior view of T6 vertebra. This is the lateral view of T6 vertebra. These are T7, T8 and T9 vertebra. This is posterior view. This is T12 vertebra which is lateral view. Now lumbar vertebrae. The lumbar vertebrae are the largest. The body is very large compared with the bodies of other vertebrae and this is kidney shaped. And the spinous process is broad and hash shaped. The transverse processes are long and slender. And the fifth lumbar vertebra articulates with the sacrum at the lumbosacral joint. You can see here the picture of lumbar vertebra. This is the axial view and this is the lateral view. These are articular facets for ribs, these are spinal cord, this is body, this is transverse process, these invertebral facets on arc of the circle. This is the lateral view of lumbar vertebra, this is body, this is demifacets for ribs, this is for rib, this is superior articular facet, this is spine, this is inferior articular facet. Next come sacrum vertebrae. Sacrum is situated at the lower part of the vertebral column, forming the back of the pelvic cavity or pelvic girdle. Base of the sacrum lies above and articulates with the fifth lumbar vertebra, forming a typical intervertebral joint. The junction between the fifth lumbar vertebra and the sacrum forms the sacrovertebral angle. Its broad upper part joins the lowest lumbar vertebra and its narrow lower part joins the coccyx or tailbone. The sides are connected to iliumus. The spinous processes of these fused bones are represented by a ridge of tubercles. The sacrum is wedged between the coxal bones of the pelvis and is united to them by fibrocartilage at the sacroiliac joints. The weight of the body is transmitted to the legs through the pelvic girdle at these joints. This is a picture of sacrum. See, this is sacrum, this is ilium, this is obturator foramen, this is pubis, this symphysis pubis, ischium, obturator foramen, coccyx and sacrum. This is the anterior surface of sacrum, this is the lateral surface of sacrum. Next comes coccyx. This is coccyx, commonly referred to as tailbone. Coccyx is commonly referred to as tailbone. It is a final segment of the vertebral column in tailless primates like in human being. So, it comprises 3 to 5 separate or fused vertebra, that is the coccygeal vertebra. Below the sacrum, it is attached to the sacrum by a fibrocartilaginous joint which permits limited movement between the sacrum and the coccyx. As it is written that coccyx is composed of 4 or 5 rudimentary vertebrae fused to form one bone. That is, coccyx is a remnant of a vestigial tail, but is still not entirely useless. It is an important attachment of various muscles, tendons and ligaments. Now, curves of vertebral column. See, when we view laterally the vertebral column, they present several curves like cervical curve, lumbar curve, sacral curve and thoracic curve. So, when we view vertebral column, they present several curves which correspond to the different regions of the column. So, the vertebral column is characterized by a variable number of curves, and these curves are, first one is sacral curve, in which the sacrum curves backwards and helps supports the abdominal organs. This is sacral curve, in which the sacrum curves is backward and helps support the abdominal organs. A forward cervical curve is forward, which develops soon after birth as the head is raised, and lumbar curve, this is lumbar curve, which develops as the child sits and walks. This is lumbar curve. Next is thoracic curve. This is thoracic curve, which is concave, forward. Its most prominent point behind corresponds to the spinous process of the 7 thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic curve is called primary as it persists from the total backward convexity of the spine, which is C-shaped at birth with the head bent downwards onto the chest. Look in the womb of mother, and for a period of time following birth, a baby's spine is shaped like the letter C. The curve is termed a primary curve. The thoracic curve is then termed a primary curve, which is kyphotic. It is also called as kyphotic curve. During the time the baby is learning to lift his head and eventually walk, muscles develop. Gradually, secondary curves develop in cervical and lumbar regions, and they are called lordotic curves. Lordotic curves will continue to develop until growing stops. So, spinal curves are either kyphotic or lordotic curve. Spinal curves are either kyphotic curve or lordotic curves, and these curves are important to balance, flexibility and stress absorption and distribution. See the types of spinal curves. Kyphosis or kyphotic curves are concave anteriorly and convex posteriorly, and lordosis or lordotic curve are convex anteriorly and concave posteriorly. Now these are the curvature of curves. Cervical is a lordosis curve because it's convex anteriorly and concave posteriorly. These are 20 to 40 degrees of curvature. Thoracic is kyphosis curve because it is concave anteriorly and convex posteriorly. It is also 20 to 40 degrees of curvature. Lumbar is a lordosis curve because it is convex anteriorly and concave posteriorly, and its curvature is 40 to 60 degrees. And sacral kyphosis, in it sacrum fused in a kyphotic curve. So these are the curves of vertebral column. Now, joints of vertebral column. See, joints are essential for any type of movement. If you move your hand, if you move your legs, you see there is a joint that help us to move. So these are the cartilaginous joint formed by pads of fibrocartilage placed between each two vertebrae, strengthened by ligaments running in front and behind the vertebral bodies throughout the entire length of the column. Masses of muscle on each side materially aid in the stability of the spine. So these are the ligaments. These are the cartilaginous joint formed by the pads of fibrocartilage placed between each two vertebrae and strengthened by the ligament like supraspinous ligament, interspinous ligament and ligamentum flavum. So joints involve the bony parts of the body. Actually, joints are points of contact between bones or between bones and cartilages. See, the intervertebral disc or thick pads fibrocartilage between the bodies of the movable vertebra. These are the intervertebral disc or thick pads fibrocartilage between the bodies of the movable vertebra. Now, movement. See, the joints formed between the disc and the vertebra are only slightly movable joints of the symphysis variety. The movement possible are flexion movement, forward bending, extension, backward bending, lateral bending to each side and rotation to right and left. The joint is called as cartilaginous joint or amphiarthrosis. Next comes skeleton of upper limb or skeleton of hand. See the moving upper limb. The skeleton of upper limb is attached to the skeleton of the trunk by means of shoulder girdle, which consists of clavicle and scapula. Below this, the following bones form the skeleton of the arm, forearm and hand, making altogether 30 bones. Each forelimb and hind limb has 30 bones. And these are: 1 is humerus, 5 metacarpals, ulna and radius 1 plus 1, phalanges 14, and carpal bones are 18 numbers. Now clavicle. The clavicle is a curved bone forming the anterior part of the shoulder girdle. It presents for examination a shaft and 2 extremities. The medial extremity is called the sternal extremity and articulates with the sternum. The lateral, the acromial extremity, articulates with the acromion process of the scapula. The clavicle also presents superior and inferior surfaces and anterior and posterior borders. This is a picture of clavicle. This is trapezoid, this is sternal or middle end, this is rhomboid ligament. This is the front view and this is back view. This is the left clavicle from above and from below. This is from above side, this is from below. If we will turn this bone, so we can see the below form. Now comes scapula. The anterior or costal surface is called the subscapular fossa and lies nearest to the ribs. The posterior or dorsal surface is divided by a prominent ridge of bone called the spine of the scapula. It presents a glenoid cavity. The long head of the biceps brachii comes from above the glenoid cavity. The joint between the head of humerus and the glenoid cavity, also called as ball and socket joint. You can see here the scapula. These wings type of bones at the back of your, when you will move your back, you can touch the scapula, wings type of bones. So these are the scapula. This is scapular notch, this is glenoid cavity, this is neck, lateral border, acromial process, coracoid process, superior border, medial border. This is glenoid cavity. This is lateral border, this is spine. So both type of left and right scapula. Now humerus. So the first bone of hand or arm is humerus. See, this is humerus. It is the long bone in the arm of forelimb that runs from shoulder to the elbow. See, humerus bone connects shoulder with elbow in human arm. Humerus connects shoulder with elbow in human arm. That's why it runs from the shoulder to the elbow. It is a long bone which consists of 3 parts, that is upper extremity of humerus, body of humerus and lower extremity of humerus. Humerus forms the upper part of human arm and many important muscles are attached with it. Next comes ulna. This is ulna and this is radius. Ulna is the one of the 2 long bones in the forearm and the other being is the radius. So the head of the ulna is at the lower end. The olecranon process fits into the olecranon fossa of the humerus when the elbow is straight. This is the olecranon process of ulna which fits into the olecranon fossa of humerus. It happens only when the elbow is straight. or your hand is straight. Next, the coronoid process fits into the coronoid fossa of the humerus when the elbow is bent. This coronoid process, it fits with the coronoid fossa of humerus only when the elbow is bent or when your hand is bent. Trochlear notch of ulna is a large depression. This is trochlear notch or semilunar notch is a large depression formed by the olecranon and the coronoid process. It serves for articulation with the trochlea of the humerus. The side of the head of the radius, this is the side of the head of the radius, articulates with the radial notch of the ulna, thus forming the superior radio-ulnar articulation. Next comes radius. This is radius, which is shorter than ulna. Radius is the lateral bone of the forearm. It is a long bone with a shaft and two extremities thinner than the ulna. Radius is towards the thumb. Next comes bones of wrist and hands. These are the bones of wrist and hands. The bones of the hands are arranged in groups, alright? The bones of the hands are arranged in groups. This is one group, second group, third group, fourth group and fifth group. Next, the carpals or the bones which enter into the formation of the wrist are short bones. Bones of the wrist are short bones, which we are calling carpals bone. Next, the metacarpals form the skeleton of the palm. Metacarpal bones are these bones which are the skeleton of the palm of the hand and are longer bones. The phalanges or the bones of fingers are longer bones. These are proximal phalanges, distal phalanges, middle phalanges. Next, the bones of the hand consist of 8 carpal bones or wrist bones, 5 metacarpal bones or palm bones and 14 phalanges bones or finger bones. The 8 carpal bones are collectively known as carpus or wrist bones, and the bones of the carpus consist of the scaphoid bone, lunate bone, triquetral bone, pisiform bone, hamate bone, capitate bone, trapezoid bone and the trapezium bone. The name of these bones are based on the shape. Next, fractures. You all are very much familiar from the term fracture. So what is fracture? A bone fracture is a medical condition in which there is a break in the continuity of the bone. So a bone fracture can be the result of the high force impact or stress or trivial injury as a result of certain medical conditions that weaken the bones. First of all, clavicle fracture or fracture of collarbone. The clavicle is usually broken by direct or indirect violence such as falling on the hand or the shoulder. The bone is usually fractured in the middle or lateral third. Next is fractures of the humerus. You can see here the broken bone of humerus or humerus fracture. Fractures of the humerus are common. The shaft is broken below the deltoid insertion. This is deltoid insertion. When the radial nerve may be injured. Fractures of the surgical neck here are common and here the axillary nerve may be involved. Next is Colles fracture, also called as Colles fracture. It is a distal fracture of the radius bone in the forearm with dorsal displacement of the wrist and the hand. This is the attempt to break a fall using the hands and arms. This is Colles fracture.